I'm back. Okay, so I fixed the live chat problem. Now we have a chat. Sweet. Okay. So I'll just say what I said before. First, I just want to say a few things to get it, just to get it out there. First, um, our my ability to update the map is temporarily broken, and we're hoping to fix it today. And so I can't update the map. I haven't been able to update it since Friday, because of a technical difficulty, but it should be fixed today, and then I'll update it for Friday and Saturday, I guess. So I haven't updated it since Thursday. Anyways, so we'll get all the updates out whenever that's fixed. And second, I have no idea what I sound like. It might sound terrible because all of my audio settings got reset because I had to update to Windows 11 and that erased all of my settings. So hello everybody. And the reason there was no chat before is because I accidentally clicked this is for kids when I started the video, and you're not allowed to chat to children. It's banned. Chatting to children is banned in this world. That's that's cool. I don't have any visual thing to show you, so this is gonna be more like a podcast than a live stream because I don't have any visual anything. I just want to talk about things that I see, and I'm just gonna kind of like randomly move my mouse of no particular purpose because I'm not actually talking about the front line today. It's kind of irrelevant to what I'm interested in right now. So I just want to talk about some trends that I've seen just watching enormous amounts of video. So a few years ago, when in 2023, when drones became kind of ubiquitous, we first started seeing them down here near Rabatina in this tack south from Novodenilivka and etc. So that's when we first started really seeing heavy uses of drones. We also saw it around Donetsk and Mariinka and stuff. But this attack near Rabatina is when the Russians really started using drones, and their drone pilots were so bad. They're so bad. They couldn't hit to save their life. They just always missed. And but anyways, when it started out, nobody really knew what they were doing. Everybody was just kind of winging it. But after a while, we saw this kind of set behavior where the Ukrainians were mostly using their drones to destroy Russian vehicles, and then the Russians were mostly using their drones to destroy Ukrainian defensive positions. So, especially around Mariinka, where Russia really used drones very, very heavily to destroy like all of these houses, especially like in the north. And then even further on into Herivka, they were destroying like all of these bigger buildings, like these churchy things, and these like really giant houses, like they're really giant houses. And Ukraine was using these as like defensive points. Like this house here and like this church here were like critical to the defense of Mariinka, or at least this is like the outskirts of Mariinka. Anyway, it was key to the defense here, and Russia was just hammering this whole area with drone after drone after drone after drone, and the goal was to knock down the houses that have nowhere to hide. They would even go into the basements and blow up the basements. So their whole goal was to collapse all this stuff, so Ukraine had nowhere to defend anymore, and Ukraine would have to pull out. And that was kind of the Russian tactic in Mariinka. We saw it up here in like um, Avdiivska and what's the name of this town? I always forget. They changed the name, but the old name I can't remember anymore. And anyway, so this whole area was kind of like where Russia first started using those tactics to really destroy positions. And then there was over here. Uh, there was the position of Menagerie, which was a really critical Ukrainian position, and that's where Russia started using heavier and heavier FPV drones. That's when we started seeing the FPVs get bigger and bigger and bigger. Um, the original FPVs were they were small, kind of like the hobbyist drones, and then Russia started introducing bigger and bigger FPVs because the Ukrainian positions around Menagerie, which is like right here, were very very strong concrete bunkers and stuff. So they had to use bigger and bigger drones trying to blow them up. Okay, so that's kind of how Russia was using their drones here. And then in Novomikhailivka, they started using um, night vision drones, trying to cut off the resupply because like Ukraine was like driving at night. They would drive trucks, like pickup trucks and vans and stuff, like along this road here, and they would drive up and drop supplies like over here and sometimes up there. So there, Ukraine was using night to move around, and Russia started using night vision drones to take out those vehicles. So this area, like right here, is where we saw like most of Russia's early drone innovation. So we saw like over here where it was when they got big drones. Here is where they got night vision drones. And in over here is where they kind of developed their whole strategy for how to use drones. So, and this whole area was really heavily funded by the Russian military. Like kind of the way you kind of think of Rubicon now is kind of how this was, where Rubicon is more of like a centralized government agency that develops drone strategies. They teach pilots how to act, like how to fly, and they supply drones and tactics. That's like kind of what Rubicon does. And this area here, Russia was doing the same sort of thing, but this was before Rubicon ever existed. This is kind of like the precursor to Rubicon, where they were investing money into these drone pilots, and those drone pilots were then developing these new tools, right? So that's kind of like where Russia was doing most of their early war, their early drone war research, right? And then in contrast to that, you had the Ukrainian kind of drone development appeared to be kind of around Avdiivka, where Magyar was kind of positioned around Avdiivka, where he was like flying into Donetsk, and he was like, he would fly drones into like the football stadium over here and take photos and stuff, and he was just kind of like taunting the Russians, like we have drones like behind you, you know. That's kind of like this was kind of like where Ukraine developed their stuff is like around Avdiivka, and Russia developed their stuff around like Mariinka, which is, when you think about it, all kind of really close together, you know. So this is kind of like the heart of of of, of where all these drones kind of came from. And the the Ukrainian approach was to attack mostly vehicles as the primary target, then as like a secondary target, infantry, and then as like a tertiary target, they would hit like defenses and stuff. Whereas the Russians, their primary target was defenses, their secondary target were infantry, and their tertiary target were vehicles. They were kind of like opposites in the way they act. And that's kind of how everything stayed up until like this year. This year it flipped. So this year, the Ukrainians came up with this idea where they wanted to cause more casualties to the Russians. And frankly, I'm not sure if it worked. In summer, it's hard to deal casualties. Drones are just not as effective in summer as they are in winter. So, especially against infantry. because people can hide in in cover easier or in concealment easier because there's leaves, there's bushes, there's just more places to hide. In winter, all the plants die out and you end up with this kind of like wintry wasteland, especially in Ukraine where, the dirt gets everywhere, everything gets covered in like a layer of silt and everything kind of turns brown and bleak. So, so yeah, in winter drones are mostly better. So, um, Ukraine has shifted towards attacking infantry as their primary goal, and at roughly the same time, Russia has largely stopped using vehicles. So, when you say Ukraine has shifted to attacking infantry, that does not mean I stopped attacking vehicles because the idea was if we ever see a vehicle, everyone's going to attack it. So why are we rewarding you for attacking the thing everyone's going to attack anyway? Instead, we're going to reward you for attacking infantry, knowing that if no matter how much we reward you to attack infantry, the second you see a vehicle, everyone's going to swarm it. So that was kind of the Ukrainian philosophy here. Um, so uh, but the thing is that Russia has largely stopped using vehicles until recently, where they kind of started using more around the Pokrovsk and other. So Russian vehicles have been disappearing, and Ukraine has been focusing more on infantry. And as a result, we see the attacks on Russian infantry going up substantially, the attacks on vehicles going down substantially, and also the attacks on Russian defensive positions have at most stayed steady, but in my opinion have dropped. So I don't think Ukraine is attacking defensive positions as much or vehicles as much. And vehicles are because vehicles aren't being used. Whereas on the flip side, Russia has dedicated huge resources to hunting down and destroying vehicles. So they are destroying way more vehicles. Ukraine is using just as many vehicles as they always have, so there's just as many targets as always. So their vehicle losses have shot up. Russia is targeting infantry as a priority and defensive positions as like low, like much lower. So the Russian priority list is now vehicles, infantry, defensive stuff. Okay, whereas the Ukrainian priorities are infantry, vehicles, defensive stuff. So in other words, on both sides, what I see is the targeting of defenses has been deprioritized, and the targeting of in the case of Ukraine, they target infantry, and in the case of Russia, they target vehicles. And in both cases, they don't really target defenses. They still hit defenses, but it's not their main target. They only hit it when they have nothing else to hit. So, so yeah, that's one thing that I've seen. And at the same time, and this is what I find super interesting, is that I see the average quality of drone pilots on both sides has fallen substantially. So the average drone pilot is less skilled than they used to be. And it's worse for the Ukrainians than for the Russians. I think I think right now the average Russian pilot is better than the average Ukrainian pilot, in my opinion. And that was not always true. It was usually that the average Ukrainian pilot was better than the average Russian pilot. Maybe it's too much to say the average Russian is better. The difference between them is not anywhere near what it used to be. The average Ukrainian used to be much better, and now I think they're at most even. At most even. Ukraine does have vastly better pilots than Russia. So like Ukraine's best pilots are way better than the Russian best pilots. But the Ukraine has a lot of just not good pilots right now. So And then you can ask why why have pilot quality gone down? And the answer is really simple: is there is a constant need for more pilots. So there's way more pilots now than there used to be, and everyone is trying to grow. So if you look at like every drone unit, they're all like their goals are like we want twice as many pilots in the future. And that's like every unit on both sides basically. So everyone's trying to get more and more pilots, and that is diluting the pool of the talent pool because there's just so many. And I don't know if it's a lack of training or if it just requires more skill. So like in the beginning, so there was like a period of time where Ukraine only had a handful of drone units, and then they wanted like every battalion, like every brigade to have their own drone unit, and that was a big growing pain where they had to go from having like six drone units to having like 100 or whatever. So when that happened, there was a period of like 3 months where pretty much all the drone pilots were completely terrible. Like there were videos I remember where a drone would fly at an inanimate object, like a communication tower, right? And they were trying to hit the communication tower more as practice more than hitting a target. It is a valid target, but it's just practice at that point. So like the guy would fly at the tower and miss it, and then circle around and fly at it again and miss it, and they would just keep flying and missing and missing and missing and missing and missing, and eventually he would hit it. Okay, like that was the sort of thing that we saw. Like the pilots just weren't good. They were bad. But after like 3 or 4 months, they got better, and they kept getting better, and it was kind of like a line go up situation where they started bad, and then like they slowly got better over time, but then they kind of plateaued, and now they're like getting worse over time. Yeah, and that's my dog. Actually, yeah, that's my dog. So he's over there barking, like saw another dog or something. But anyways, so those are some points I just wanted to make. First, pilot skill is going down on both sides. Like Rubicon, for example, their pilot skill has really, really gone down. Like you can go back, you can take like a video from today, a Rubicon video from today, and watch it, and you'll see how they act. Like how did they choose their target? How did they choose what angle to come in at the target? Like, are they coming in like vertically straight down? Or are they coming in like horizontal to the ground? Are they kind of circling in on an arc? When are they committing to the target? Like, are they committing from very, very far away, or are they flying closer and then committing? So just watch a video, keeping all that in mind, and then go back in time and watch a video from last year, like last September, a Rubicon video, and watch that. And you will see night and day. The pilots last year were so much better, like vastly superior. They they hit harder angles, so like say you have like a truck that's just kind of parked there, right? So you have like a truck that's just parked here, and there's not many angles to hit it from. So say like it's like surrounded by like a house, right? So like let's pretend that this red is like a house, and this right here is a truck. So you can't come from the top or from the sides because there's house there. You can only come from the rear, but you can't hit the truck in the rear because you're not going to destroy the truck, because like hitting the rear of the truck doesn't really damage it. It just kind of like it's annoying. It doesn't hurt the truck. You have to hit you really want to hit the side of the truck right here. You want to hit the truck right there because that's where the gas tank is, and if you hit the gas, the whole truck will catch on fire, right? So the pilots today do not have the skill to hit the truck right there. So what the pilots today would just they would commit from really far away and just go come in and hit the truck in the rear, and they would say, "There, I hit the truck," right? And then all you did was like poke a hole in the rear bed of the truck, and the truck can just drive away. There's nothing wrong with the truck. It's just annoying. Whereas drone pilots last year, they would either come in from like this angle, coming at like a really sharp, like almost straight down angle, and hit the gas tank, or they would fly in and like slowly hover and then turn and then hit the gas tank really slowly, or they would do some sort of skilled maneuver to hit the truck where you have to hit it to destroy it. The pilots today are just they're committing from really far away, like hundreds and hundreds of meters away, maybe a kilometer away, diving full speed just straight into the truck and doing no damage because you're hitting something, hitting a part that doesn't hurt it. You're just poking a hole in the bed. Right. So that's the sort of skill drop that we're seeing, and that is, you see it really clearly with Rubicon, and you see it with pretty much every drone unit. And if you watch enough video, like I watch way too much video, like no person should watch as much as I've been watching, but when you watch a lot of video, it's so obvious how much the skill has fallen. And it's I personally never thought that skill would drop that much. I thought there would be like a steady march north, like up with skill. Like maybe there would be plateaus when you expand out. Maybe you would dip a little bit and then bounce back up. But this has just been a steady, just line downwards. And there's another thing going on too, where both sides are intentionally targeting drone pilots to wipe them out. Which side has more drone pilots? I would imagine Ukraine has more, but I'm not really sure. Is it going down from attrition? Probably. If there's attrition is absolutely a factor. Both sides are attacking drone pilots. Being a drone pilot is dangerous. People think of a drone pilot as someone who is in the rear. Drone pilot is not a rear job. Drone pilot is like frontline infantry practically. Like maybe second line. Let's call it second line infantry. If you're a drone pilot, there's a good chance you're gonna get into a firefight. Okay, it's not a rear job. It's not like you're safe. It's not safe. It's very dangerous. Uh, a recon pilot might be in the rear because they have longer range. But when you're talking eh, like a strike pilot, like an attack pilot, they're in the front. Are there any questions? Oh, another thing is that one reason that drone pilots have gotten worse over time is EW. So EW makes it significantly harder to fly in certain ways. So there were ways that were very effective methods of flying a drone that are made completely impossible in EW. But EW does not fully explain the drop in skill. But it does explain a chunk of it. Because it's just it's way harder to fly in EW than without EW. Are there any other questions in the chat? Okay. What other what other things have I noticed recently? Um, Ukraine is losing a lot of light vehicles. Like Russia's really focusing on it, and by light vehicles I mean like pickup trucks, vans, SUVs. They're losing so many pickup trucks. Like it is not a good time to be a pickup truck. And another interesting thing is that Ukraine is using loafs way, like really commonly. Like it used to be that we would never see a Ukrainian loaf ever, except in like that deep rear, like way back there, like way back there. Um, but now they're common. Like sometimes one or two a day of Ukrainian loaves, which is just a change. Just a change. And also we're seeing Russia use pickup trucks, which we never saw them use pickup trucks, but now they're using pickup trucks. Hi Dylan. Yep. Yeah. Dylan, he says the drone pilots have one of the most dangerous jobs. It's absolutely true. I we've heard from drone pilots who are coming from positions who are like getting rotated out, like their normal rotation, and when they tell us where they're coming from, it's insane that a drone pilot would be there. Because I like they are in places where I would not even expect like normal infantry to be, and somehow there's drone pilots there. It's crazy. Um, there's a few other things that I've seen recently. Is the way videos are edited has dramatically changed throughout the course of the war. So it used to be that Russian drone videos were very heavily edited and very obviously manipulated to tell some sort of story or to hide information. Like you could just you watched it and you knew it was edited, and not honestly. And they got kind of a bad reputation for that, where everybody was kind of even Russians were out of hand, like throwing out these drone videos because they had such a bad reputation of being so edited. So and the Ukrainian videos, on the contrary, were usually only lightly edited and more obviously honest about what was going on, and they usually had like wider shots where they would show where like where you were, and that made it easier to geolocate, and then they would show the whole drone attack. So like you'd see like the drone swooping in at the target, and then very often have another drone showing the aftermath of the hit, and it was all more honest. And this has flipped. It's flipped, and it drives me absolutely crazy because nowadays the Russian videos have those wide out shots, the drone going in, and aftermath footage where it's a much more honest portrayal of what's happening. And the Ukrainian videos are so obviously edited to be deceiving. And I don't mean deceiving in like a bad way necessarily, because the deceiving is more about operational security. And I think it was the same for the Russians, honestly. So the Ukrainians, there's a number of things they want to hide. They want to hide exactly what tactics they're using because they don't want the Russians to figure out their tactics. So they're trying to hide their tactics. They're trying to hide um, like specifics about um, like the personality of the pilot. I don't know how else to describe that, but you can tell kind of who's flying a drone based on how they approach a target. So if you cut out that approach, you lose that information about the drone pilot. They often want to hide exactly what Ukraine is responding to and how, which again is part of their tactics. But they when Russia attacks, Ukraine has like priorities for first we're gonna hit this, then we're gonna hit that, then we're gonna hit this, and they want to chop that up and make it as obscure as possible so that you can't really tell what's going on. And one of the ways they do that is by chopping up videos so that you only see very small fragments of each drone attack, and also they split out assaults over multiple days. So if Russia does an assault on Monday, um, Ukraine will take some of the drones from that assault and publish them on Tuesday, and some of them on Wednesday, some of them on Thursday, some of them on Friday, and it's really annoying for us to go through and try to piece together what happened. But Ukraine is doing this for OPSEC reasons, and it's to obscure all of these facts and informations that they don't want the Russians to get their hands on. So there was a there in Ukraine there was like this big debate over um, some drone units were publishing video kind of willy nilly, and they were publishing a lot of video, and they were using it to generate attention and to raise money and to get more famous. And this kind of really angered some of the other drone people in Ukraine who were developing tactics to, to to defeat Russia, because those drone videos that were being leaked, or not leaked, but that they're being published like very regularly, um, they were leaking these tactics. So, from what I understand, this editing style, which has never been publicly talked about from what I've seen, but just using logic, I take it as a compromise between wanting to publish footage in a timely manner and wanting to hide your tactics and all of these other information that you don't want the Russians to get their hands on. So, the long story short, it used to be that the Russians were obscuring the truth through editing. Now the Ukrainians are. It used to be that the Ukrainians were much more honest in their editing, and now the Russians are. So that is a flip that I have seen, and it's interesting. It's something to note down. It's something that I think the casual observer of this war would not know unless you watched hundreds and hundreds of videos. And I'll look through the chat to see if anybody has questions. And I'm sorry, there's no visual thing. I have nothing. I can move the map around. That's all I got. I have no other visuals today. This is kind of. I probably shouldn't be doing a stream because I have a lot of work to do. So I just wanted to make a stream just because there are things I want to talk about that the public doesn't know because they don't care, honestly. But maybe you care. Uh, okay, so you ask about whether I think Russia is ahead in fiber optic technology, and the answer is no, they're not. Um, Personally, I view fiber optics as not a great technology. Personally, like when you look at like the FP1 and the FP2 drones, for example, I view those drones, especially the FP2, as very far ahead of what Russia's doing. These are very large warhead drones capable of penetrating EW to some extent. I'm not 100% sure on how good they are with EW, but to some extent they can penetrate EW. They can penetrate air defenses, obviously because they've been targeting air defenses with the drones. They've been taking out radars, Tors, Books, S300s, S400s, all of their radars with these drones. So I view those drones as being really the cutting edge, whereas these fiber optic drones, I don't view them that way. Like I would argue that something like the laser drone is much more sophisticated than a Vandal drone. Like I would rather have the Lazar drone. The Lazar is it's a heavy bomber that's used by the Lazar drone group, and their bomber is called a Lazar heavy bomber. So they that drone is much more sophisticated, has much better technology, all of which is classified. I know almost nothing about the technology other than it's classified and much more advanced. So and that technology is connectivity, obviously. So it's able to fly in really strong EW, and that's all I know about it. And it blows up anything it wants. So, um, when I compare that to a fiber optic, the fiber optic solves some problems. It's able to fly through EW. There are other ways of flying through EW. Like, um, Ukraine has developed many ways of penetrating EW that do not require fiber optic. So, for example, if you have a repeater drone, if your repeater signal is stronger than the EW signal, you can fly through EW. So if you have repeater drones that are repeating your signals along your flight path, you can fly right through EW and you do not need fiber optics. And you can use repeaters on the ground, you can use repeaters in the air. So that's one way to penetrate. Another way to penetrate is with satellite signals. There's Starlink, there's other satellite signals that you can use that cannot be jammed easily. It would be ridiculously difficult to jam. I don't think Russia even has the technology to jam it, even if they wanted to. So, um, so yeah, there's other ways of penetrating that aren't fiber optic, and whether fiber optic is the cheapest option, maybe it's the cheapest. It comes with costs. It comes with downsides. Especially something like a Vandal drone. There's a difference between a fiber optic FPV drone and a Vandal drone. The Vandal drone is vastly superior than a fiber optic FPV drone because the Vandal drone is fiber optic and it is an FPV drone, but it's different. Okay, so it has its own custom board. It has its own much higher quality camera. I think it has higher quality engines. It's a more expensive product, whereas a fiber optic FPV drone is like your standard FPV drone with some fiber optics taped to the back. Okay, so that different products, very different. So so yeah, there's pros and cons. So um, and one pro is that these drones that do not use fiber optic, they are more maneuverable. They can carry bigger warheads. They can fly further. Drones that have fiber optics, um, they might be easier. Um, they, they cost less money, maybe. I'm not entirely sure about that. They require less logistical work. Like, you don't need access to those satellites. You don't need access to these repeaters, etc. So in that sense, there's pros and cons. It's not fiber optic is not strictly better. It's just not, in my opinion, it's not better at all. It's just a different way of doing things. But there's other ways. There's other ways, and I think Ukraine is better at those other ways. Um, are there any other questions? Have I seen videos of people getting tangled in fiber? Yes, and it's funny. It's always funny to me. I have seen a Russian on a motorcycle driving down a street and getting clotheslined by a fiber optic cable, and that was really funny. It's just so funny. He got up and he took out his phone and he recorded it, and he was like, "That really hurt," and he had uh like a like a line across his face where the cable, like, it hit him right on the nose, basically. Um, but yeah, we've also seen I've seen at least one drone fly into a fiber optic cable and destroy itself, which was funny. Um, but yeah, these things happen. Yeah, there's but yeah, this we've also seen we've seen vehicles get stuck in fiber optic cable too. Not big vehicles. I don't think like a tank could, but smaller ones like a UGV. I've seen a UGV get stuck in fiber optic cable. Basically, what happened is a fiber optic drone. I think it was like a Vandal drone. It exploded somehow. I don't know how. It exploded, and it had like a ton of fiber left, and its its fiber container, like the plastic holding it, shattered. So it had like its fiber was just strewn in like a line, like but like still really dense, like densely packed line, right? And a UGV drove over it, and all the fiber got into the treads of the UGV and like detract it. Um, Glide bomb interceptions are possible, but the problem is glide bombs are really fast. I'm sure a motorcycle could get stuck in fiber optic. I'm sure it depends though. But yeah, glide bombs are so fast. They're traveling like as almost as fast as the airplane. Like they don't lose that much speed when they're gliding, but they're so fast. You can intercept them. There's nothing stopping you from intercepting a bomb other than it's really fast. And you need some sort of radar to even see it. It doesn't even have thermals. Like there's no heat generation. It's just gliding. Although perhaps the rocket propelled ones might have heat, maybe. But yeah, you could intercept the bomb. It would require radar. Having radar is hard. Radar is easy to destroy. So, and they're fast. They're really fast. So yeah, there's what other things have I noticed recently? Um, I don't know. That's kind of all I wanted to say. Do any of you have any questions or any comments? This was my first stream in a long time, and it wasn't planned. I was just sitting here doing the Rubicon video. I just decided I felt like talking about drones a little bit. So okay, I don't see any more questions. So I think I'm gonna stop the stream, and maybe I'll make more streams in the future. And it was nice talking to you all, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.